Some 3 million doses of Sinovac's COVID-19 vaccine have arrived in the Philippines. Malacanang wants to spend more than 45.3 billion pesos on booster shots in 2022. But the health department says third doses against COVID-19 are not yet recommended. President Duterte has yet to announce new quarantine classifications with just 1 day left before the 2-week ECQ period in Metro Manila lapses. The Justice Department has indicted self-confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa and several others over the illegal drug trade in the Eastern Visayas. And in sports, Manny Pacquiao is all set for his weekend bout with reigning WBA super welterweight champion Yordenis Ugas. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's a roundup of stories we're watching now. I'm Sean Yao. Officials welcomed another 3 million COVID-19 vaccine doses from Sinovac this afternoon. The China-made jabs touched down at the NAIA Terminal 3 via a Philippine Airlines flight at around 5:55 p.m. today. This batch was procured by the national government. To date, more than 29 million vaccine doses have been administered nationwide. 16.2 million shots were given as first doses, and 12.8 million of the eligible population having been fully vaccinated. On average, 445,000 vaccines are being administered daily across all vaccination sites nationwide. And the government wants to allocate more than 45 billion pesos for COVID-19 booster shots. Palace spokesperson Harry Roque said the funding is included in the proposed budget of over 5 trillion pesos for 2022. While the health department is open to the use of booster shots, the agency has maintained that these are not yet recommended for now.
As of now, hindi pa rin i-recommend yung ating booster dose, no? So, but for 2022, we may consider booster. Kasi ano ba ang definition ng ating booster? Will it be a third dose of the same vaccine, yung nabigyan na, or we boost everybody with a vaccine, or will we boost another vaccine?
Over in the United States, officials said that booster shots will be made widely available to Americans starting September 20. They explained that protection from initial vaccinations have started to wane amid the presence of highly infectious and transmissible COVID variants. However, this does not sit well with the World Health Organization, as they are emphasizing that vaccine supplies should reach poor countries first. And President Duterte has yet to announce new quarantine classifications with just 1 day left before the 2-week ECQ period in Metro Manila lapses. In today's briefing, Palace spokesman Harry Roque said that IATF officials will be sending their recommendations to the president after their meeting this afternoon. Roque said they are considering two options. First is to prolong the ECQ period. Second is to de-escalate to the less strict modified ECQ status. The palace official also noted that cases are not expected to decrease immediately despite the ongoing ECQ because the cycle of COVID-19 transmission takes 14 days.
Nais kong sabihin sa ating taong bayan, pangatlong ECQ na po natin to. At nakikita natin na matapos ang ECQ, hindi po kaagad bumababa ang numero. Siguro po mga 1 linggo pa bago tuluyang bumaba. Dahil nga po delayed yung reaction because it takes 14 days yung cycle ng hawahan sa sakit neto. So hindi po ibig sabihin na kung matatapos na ang ECQ ay bukas bababa.
In connection to that, the health department logged over 14,800 COVID-19 cases today. That is the second highest tally since the onset of the pandemic. Active cases now stand at more than 111,000. On the back of that, let's bring in Octa Research Fellow Gov't to help us make sense of all these numbers and what's going to happen. Professor Gov't, good afternoon. Thanks for coming back on. How do you think the IATF will be deciding on quarantine, and how will today's COVID-19 numbers factor in almost 14,900 cases?
Well, Sean, I don't think the today's number will really will factor in that much. I think they have probably made their decision already based on the trends over the past 2 weeks, and based on what they are foreseeing to be the trends over the next 2 weeks. I mean, whatever the case may be, yes, whether they extend ECQ or whether they move down to MECQ, I think both will be fine recommendations, as long as the MECQ should still be fairly stringent in that we don't allow social gatherings at this time, and many other activities. So I think the mobility change between ECQ and a fairly strict MECQ would not be that significant. It will still affect the numbers, but we think it would be fine either way.
Right. So should we actually expect a further increase in cases in the coming days? For those that are numbers conscious, we're already hitting, the second highest tally for how many days now this week. You think then it's safe to say that we will actually log the highest number of cases since the start of the pandemic in the next couple of days or weeks?
Well, Sean, let's put it this way. The reproduction number has been decreasing in the Philippines. It's 1.46. And in the NCR, it's 1.7. But even with the decrease in reproduction number, it means that cases are still increasing. That means we will likely see, the record number of cases being broken sometime, probably by next week. It could even happen this week. But that shouldn't mean that the lockdown or the quarantine restrictions are not having their effect, because as was noted by the spokesperson, the effects of the lockdown will be felt usually after 4 weeks, in the sense that we will see a downward trend after the 4th week. So by our estimates, this would be around mid-September, about the second week of September, when we will see a downward trend.
All right, so we should expect, at least hope for, a decrease in cases by the second week of September because of that delay of the effectivity or efficacy of quarantines. Now, when we talk about other provinces that are also experiencing a surge, such as Bataan, Laguna, Cavite, and others, do you have any quarantine classification recommendations for these specific areas?
Well, I think they have to implement their quarantine protocols strictly, and have people abide by the minimum health standards, because cases are still rising in many provinces. I mean, as I mentioned just a while ago, the trend has slowed down a little bit in Metro Manila, but not in the provinces, in Cavite and Laguna. I mean, Cavite is still accelerating. And that will actually help drive the numbers up even further. And that's why we're expecting to see, more than 50,000 sometime by next week. I mean, we're not trying to be alarmist. That's what the projection says. So, but it's really mostly in these areas, because we just published a report today that says that in Cebu City, we're seeing a slowdown of the trend. And we're hoping that, or we're expecting that by the first week of September, that the cases will be on a downward trend. But not in Cavite, Laguna, and in other areas in Calabarzon and Central Luzon. I mean, we're still seeing the upward trend. So we'll have to look at the numbers and monitor them and see if, we'll start to see a downward trend in some of these areas.
All right. Having said all of that already, are there any other provinces or areas or regions that the government should be keeping an eye on as early as now?
All right. Well, like I mentioned, in Central Visayas, the situation is improving, and we expect it to, to be improved by September. In Mindanao, there's still some slight increase in cases in some areas, like again the Ora and Davao City, but I think the situation is fairly stable and fairly controlled. In the Ilocos region, it's also controlled now. The cases are starting to decrease. So it's mainly NCR Calabarzon, Central Luzon, and I guess Cagayan to Tuguegarao, where we're seeing a spike in cases. It actually has the highest attack rate based on our report a few days ago. So it has the highest attack rate in the country. And I think those are the places that we have to be concerned about, because in other areas in Western Visayas, situation has already improved. Even in Aklan, it's stabilizing. So just those areas. I mean, the fewer areas, Sean, the better, of course.
All right. Thank you so much, as usual, for your time. We appreciate it. Professor Gov't of the Octa Research Group over the phone. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Sean.
And while some people are calling for Health Chief Francisco Duque III's resignation, one senator floated the idea of suspending him instead. Marian Enriquez has the story.
Despite numerous probes in the past, shouldn't Secretary Duque be suspended by now?
This was Senator Grace Poe's question during the inquiry into the Health Department's spending. Recall that the Commission on Audit flagged the DOH for its deficiencies in handling over 67 billion pesos. Poe cited the preventive suspension imposed on 8 PhilHealth executives by the Ombudsman over corruption. The Filipino Nurses United agreed with Poe's suggestion.
Kasi malinaw doon sa takbo ng investigation, napakita yung laki ng inefficiencies, kabagalan, kapalpakan, kawalan ng concern ng Department of Health sa kalagayan ng mga health workers at mga nurses. So, masasabi natin na meron talagang gross neglect.
But for some House lawmakers, suspension is not enough.
Dapat tanggalin talaga sa pwesto si Duque, panagutin din si Duterte sa kanyang kapabayaan. Matagal naman napalpak na pero lagi nakakalusot dahil syempre protektado ng presidente.
Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate said Duque may have violated the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act.
Dahil hindi lang naman ang anti-graft is doon sa meron kang ginawa, kundi kabahagi rin dyan yung wala kang ginawa sa mga obligasyon at duties mo na dapat mong gawain.
House Committee on Public Accounts Chair Bonito Singson said they need to have a consensus on the matter.
Wala pa tayong conclusion doon kasi isang hearing pa lang. So based on the hearings, whether to call the Ombudsman to suspend kung may basehan or kung didisiplinahin or for his resignation, we don't know. It all depends on the outcome of the hearing.
House lawmakers assured the public that they will strictly scrutinize the use of public funds not only in the DOH but in other departments as well ahead of the budget deliberations in October. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
And Senator Manny Pacquiao is all set for his bout with WBA super welterweight champion Yordenis Ugas on August 21. The two boxers met in person for the first time ahead of their weekend match, which is Pacquiao's first appearance in the ring after 2 years. Ugas is taking the place of injured WBC and IBF champ Errol Spence Jr., who was slated to be the Pac-Man's opponent. Pacquiao will be challenging the 35-year-old Ugas for the WBA welterweight belt at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Right, it's time to take a quick look at today's other top stories. 12 more Filipinos have been repatriated from war-torn Afghanistan. 7 of them have been evacuated to Qatar, while the rest were brought to the United Kingdom. The Foreign Affairs Department has called on the 90 Filipinos left in Afghanistan to prepare to leave anytime. The Justice Department has indicted self-confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa and several others over the illegal drug trade in Eastern Visayas. Meanwhile, the complaint filed against policemen tagged by Espinosa has been junked for lack of evidence. And in weather, Tropical Depression Isang has accelerated while maintaining strength. State Weather Bureau Pag-asa says it is unlikely to raise wind signals over various areas in the country. For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Masks on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.